Hi Danny, Chris and Jude. This, for me, is the most important nutrition part of, well, the whole blog really. 3 balanced meals. Now, if I would have written this or discussed this part of the blog even two years ago, before having Grace, or 3 years ago, I was caught up in the world of nutritionism, looking at single nutrients such as, the impact of carbohydrate, the impact of omega-3s, what about vitamin B6, without realising that as human beings, we've grown up on this planet in conjunction with the earth, the soil, the bacteria, all natural things that we eat, and our bodies are used to eating real food. They don't eat nutrients, they eat actual real whole food. So my thinking on this has changed massively. Before I'd have been thinking about, let's do a nutritional analysis and see how much vitamin B6 you're getting and how much omega-3 you're getting. Whereas in reality, if you take a step back and eat natural food, everything takes care of itself. That's why there's no need to, if you're going to read one book, read Michael Pollans' Food Rules, which basically just takes it back to what our great-grandmothers would have eaten. Things that grow out of the ground and things that run on the ground. That way then, you're getting things that are your body is used to, you're getting the right balance of nutrients, and you don't need to worry about all the processed food and all the downside of the processed food, things that you're eating. I'm not going to go through his 10 rules, but basically what they do is take you back to thinking about things that grow out of the ground, things that run on the ground, foods with no more than 5 ingredients, and ideally minimizing packaged food. And anything that has a health claim on it is basically trying to claim something that the natural foods do just as a given. So be really careful about packaged foods and let's focus on real natural foods. So I want to make a massive distinction here, and this is really important for me and you, Danny, as growing up, bringing up Grace and Jude, is normal eating is now food based on marketing, what your friends eat, what celebrities eat, and what's on trend. It's all to do with what is around you and what you're exposed to. When you go to the supermarket, the fact that you've got these sweets and you've got all these processed and packaged foods in fancy packaging calling out your name to eat them, that's nothing to do with natural eating. Whereas natural eating is minimizing processed food, not having artificial ingredients, and basically having stuff that grows on the earth or runs on the ground. Now, it is challenging in this sort of today's environment to eat naturally because everywhere you go it's processed and packaged food. And yes, Grace and Jude will look a little bit different than the rest of the other kids who eat quote unquote normally. Because kids who eat normally are generally going to be overweight, tired, nutrient deprived, and basically on the way to ill health. Up to 50% of the adult population now are moving towards being overweight or obese. It's not going to be far before the kids are too far behind because of the type of diet that we're following. So if we want the kids to be normal, then we've got to expect that that's what's going to happen to them as they get older. If we decide to keep natural, try and grow our own veg, eat things with very minimal packaged foods, and keep to things that grow out of the ground and run around on the ground, we can expect healthy weight, happy, high energy, and really sort of switched on young people. So we are going to have to be not normal and maybe be abnormal by eating natural foods, but what we will get for the result for them is, good healthy kids, and it's ultimately be what you want to see. We have to eat like that if we want our kids to eat like that. We can't expect them to do something different if we're sat there eating McDonald's and Cocoa Pops all day. So be what you want to see. Now, the benefits of doing that, from a diabetes perspective, you obviously get all the health benefits that I've just discussed, but what you also get is a massive diabetes improvement. So, because we've already discussed, when you have a balanced meal, that matches insulin very well. And if you can put in 10 to 15 minutes of moderate activity after eating, that really keeps the CGM profile as flat as possible, which is amazing. Obviously, kids, Grace and Jude, you're not going to manage just 3 balanced meals. You're going to have the occasional snack here and there. And this is what it might look like in reality. So for me, who can keep to 3 balanced meals, that's 99% time in range easy by following 3 balanced meals. Grace and Jude, you're probably going to have a high carb snack in here and there. And yes, it will lead to being a little bit above target, but you're still going to be talking 80 to 90% time in range. And yes, eating this, half a plate of veg, quarter carbs, quarter protein with maybe some fruit and some milk on a daily basis, people will see as boring. People will see as, wow, that is, kind of proper old school. And you're absolutely right, it is old school, but old school people have healthy weights, healthy bodies, healthy minds. If this looks like all carbs, processed foods, people are overweight, they look unhealthy, they have very unhealthy minds. So you kind of have to decide what you want to be and also be what you want to see. And obviously there's going to be the occasional takeaway that comes in. You have the occasional Cocoa Pops. That's fine if it's 10% of the time. It's not okay if it's 80% of the time. So that's up to us, Danny, to make sure we create the food environment at home that facilitates and makes this easy. If we've got biscuits and crisps and chocolate in the fridge and the cupboards, I'm going to eat them. So we need to make sure that they're not in there because your environment dictates what you do. If you decide to go for the Cocoa Pops with waffles and baked beans and fish fingers with chips for tea, followed by, I don't know, maybe a McDonald's later on, what you can expect is very high glucose levels in between, maybe only 50% in target. If you go for the eat what you like all the time, just give the insulin for it and whack in as much insulin as you can, well, the insulin's never going to be able to keep up with the food. The glucose levels are going to go really high, the insulin dose is going to be really high, and the health is going to go down at a rate of knots. So you need to decide what you're going to do. Now, I will teach you in the meal insulin guide how to manage those high carbohydrate meals, maybe such as Cocoa Pops occasionally, and how to deal with things like pizza and high fat meals, but we're not ready for that yet. And what I really want you to focus on is 80 to 90% of the time needs to be 3 balanced meals with maybe 1 snack. That is the bit that's going to make diabetes really easy to manage and means that you don't need to go low carb. You can actually enjoy those foods and get all the nutrient benefits, but you're going to have to put a little bit of activity after eating to make sure we keep the CGM profile pretty flat. But we'll discuss more of that in the meal insulin guide. The things that I want you to take away from here is forget about thinking about individual nutrients such as carbohydrate, omega-3 fats. Focus on eating real, natural food, not normal food, natural food that grows on the ground or runs on the ground, not that comes in a package with loads of additives. If you want to read a book, Michael Pollans' Food Rules is amazing, and what we need to really move towards is 80 to 90% of 3 natural balanced meals. And I will go over how we can manage high carb and high fat meals in the meal insulin guide. But ultimately, the environment that you create at home is basically directly leads to how the kids eat and how they turn up being in the future in terms of their health. And it's important that we role model as mum and dad to Grace and Jude exactly what we would like them to be. We have to be. So we have to eat naturally 3 balanced meals. They will do that. That's what the cupboards look like. That's what they will be like. So rant over 3 balanced meals as the usual. There won't be any problems. It's time to think about how we can measure success with diabetes.